So, hello. Welcome to the Goethe Institute. I'm Beate Köhler, I'm the director here, and we are really happy to host here the MYTHOS presentation in the framework of the Forest Festival. So, I have to thank a lot to our partners, say thank you to our partners from the National Theatre, from Regensburg, all the guests from Regensburg. Especially thank you so much, Laura, for you are the motor of the whole thing. And also thanks to my team who made everything possible tonight and convinced me that one day before we are closing, we still have the power to host such nice people as you. So please feel free to serve yourself, enjoy the evening, and now the real serious thing starts.
Thank you so much, dear Beate Köhler, for hosting so dearly this event, this closing event of the 4th International Festival of NTG. Thank you so much, Laura, for making it possible for Gefesselt and Theater Regensburg to visit Thessaloniki. Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for the support, the technical support today. So, ladies, thank you. I would like to also thank you on behalf of the Artistic Director of the National Theatre of Northern Greece, Mr. Asterios Pantekis, who could not be here joining us tonight, as he is not in the city. Though we are very, very happy to be here in this hosting event, and I will give the word directly to Laura and Maria Lazaridou, and to introduce yourselves, yes, and tell us a little bit more about making mythos. Just a moment though, θα χρειαζόταν κάποιος μετάφραση στα ελληνικά, είναι διαθέσιμη αν έχετε την ανάγκη. Αν δεν το χρειάζεστε, θα μπορούσαμε να συνεχίσουμε και χωρίς αυτό, θα μας έσωζε χρόνο. Okay, then we don't need translation. That's wonderful. It will save us time. Laura Mangels.
Well, mine is louder. Thank you so much, Amalia and Maria, for the International Forest Festival invitation. Thank you, of course, Beate Köhler, Natásas Sίδeri, for inviting us, hosting us here at Goethe Institute, and also setting this all up, I think. So you know who this whole bunch of people is in the beginning. We're going to do a really, really short introduction, just really say our name and why we're here. So my name is Laura Mangels. I'm a dramaturg at Theater Regensburg, and I was also organizing the MYTHOS competition for contemporary Greek drama in Regensburg.
Good evening, I am Stella Papadimitriou. I work at the Literary Office of National Theatre of Northern Greece, and I was a member of the jury of MYTHOS.
Hello, my name is Janis Knorr, and I'm the director of the play Bound.
Kalispera, my name is Guido Wachter, and I'm an actor in Regensburg, and I played Kallios in our play Bound, the judge.
Hello, my name is Natásas Sίδερη, and I have written the play Bound.
Hi, my name is Zelal Kapczyk. I am an actress in the theatre in Regensburg, and I've played Natalia in Bound, the daughter.
Καλησπέρα και από μένα. Hi, this is Maria Lazaridou. I work in the Artistic Production and Literary Department in the National Theatre of Northern Greece. I'm also a member of the organizational team of the International Forest, and I'm happy to be here with all of you.
So maybe we're going to start with the big question, what is MYTHOS? It is a competition for contemporary Greek drama that was established by the National Theatre of Northern Greece and Theater Regensburg in the past year. We also had as the partners, especially in the beginning, Artbox, Creative Arts Management, also based here in Thessaloniki. And we were also kindly supported by Ggäte Institute in the translation, and also by Theaterfreunde Regensburg, which is like the club in Regensburg who are like the friends of the theater. In Regensburg we have a special situation, actually kind of similar to the one that occurred here as well. We had 1 year of new artistic direction, and Klaus Kusenberg started to be our artistic director, who worked at the acting department for many, many years as a director. And he's been working in contemporary drama for a long, long time. And then I joined his team, and we were really eager to do a European project for contemporary drama in Regensburg. Because in our theater it's really important for us to play texts by people who are actually still alive. And we're really, really interested in perspectives and positions from other European countries as well. So we proposed the project MYTHOS because, you know, we thought it would be like a really catchy title with the gaps between the letters and the question mark and the expression mark. To Maria Lazaridou, and it's actually a really, really nice coincidence that we're meeting tonight here at Ggäte Institute, because this is actually the place where Maria and I met when I was doing an internship at Ggäte Institute 5 years ago. And Maria, you were, yes, 5 years ago.
I was part of, I was collaborating with Artbox Creative Arts Management under the framework of the Artacity project here in Ggäte. So it was the first time that we met each other and we collaborated together.
Yeah, and we also met over our passion of theater, and now ended up working in like the dramaturgical departments of the theater. And MYTHOS started as a competition for Greek theater text, and within 1 year we had the whole process of like a jury procedure. We had a total of 126 texts sent in from Greece, which we were really, really happy about it. We also had this, I mean, it was, of course, during COVID times. We did everything in a digital way. We had a Zoom meeting to talk about the MYTHOS project, and still we were really happy that 126 authors from Greece entered the texts. And yeah, then we had the process of the jury that Stella is going to talk about later, and at Regensburg it concluded actually 3 weeks ago with the MYTHOS Fest, where we brought some pictures with us. Tessa, maybe you can just show some pictures, because we had 3 authors who were awarded with the prizes. The first one was Natassas Sίδερη for a text Gefesselt, bound Dεσμω. Then we had Dana Epituniadi for her text Bloom, and Stelina Bogliazzi, who's also sitting in the audience tonight, for her text Fake Antlers. Yes, this is for you, Stelina. And we showed Gefesselt. Unfortunately, because of the COVID situation, one of the actresses was sick during the festivals, so we showed the movie. We had concerts, we had staged readings of the 2nd and 3rd awarded prize, we had an awards ceremony, and yeah, this is Stelina on stage, just so you have some impressions of the conclusion of our project in Regensburg. This is Dana Epituniadi, and then maybe we can go to the, this is Natassas Sίδερη on stage in Regensburg, and then this is actually it's maybe interesting for you to see, because this is the other part of the jury, kind of. It's Klaus Kusenberg, the artistic director, Dr. Saskia Zintzakris, a leading dramaturg, Antigone Agün, who works in Germany as well as Greece, Danae, and then Franziska vom Hede. She was also part of the jury, and she's part of theater publishing house Surkamp Theater Verlag. And I think now you got a little impression what the MYTHOS project is and what happened before. And I would like to invite you, Stella, to maybe give some insights in the jury process.
Just to say, just before Stella speaks, just to say that it was a very important proposition for this collaboration. because there are not many chances for writers in Greece to have European acknowledgement of their work and to also have the plays staged outside Greece. So it was a very important initiative that we took up with joy, and we felt the importance, how important it is today to have the chance to meet, first of all, with Greek writers, and then, let's say, test how it is for the plays to be shown in Germany, in front of German public. So this is what just in the room, Nataša will share with us, the actors, and Janis Knorr also. So the word is in Stella now.
Okay, I would prefer to speak about the text, Natasá's Sίδeri's play, and the way that, the reason that I distinguished this play. Not so much about the procedure, because you said everything very, very well. So, about Bound, my attention was immediately called from the first reading of Bound. I was impressed by the condensed structure, along with the simplicity of the form used by Sίδeri to present the Greek debt crisis, a political issue, traumatic for a whole generation in Greece, an issue which also gave the opportunity to young people to rethink politically and to realize the importance of being active in democracy. In Bound, the concept of the debt goes beyond its financial dimension. The debt becomes an obligation towards society, towards family, towards rules, towards morality. Two are the main points I would like to stay on this play. MYTHOS consents to his oppression and the theme of guilt. For the first topic, MYTHOS enters in this relationship by choice. A number of following choices limits his freedom. He is the one that allows the others to set and define the terms of this relationship. He consents to his imprisonment. He consents due to a moral obligation. This aspect of the play creates a new dimension in the financial relationship of lender and borrower. It reveals the psychological aspect of the boss and the slave, the victim and the victimizer, the aspect of the one who wants to be oppressed, the one to whom the condition of oppression is familiar. At the same time, the element of guilt, which appears in the text through pauses and silences, is a nodal point in the relations of power. The religious dimension in the play appears totally justifiable for me. Before the end, Kallios asks MYTHOS if he believes in God. He asks also if he has the intention to be sacrificed like him, a direct reference to the guilt and the victimization imposed by the religion. Same religious reference we meet again at the end, where MYTHOS asks for water, like Christ did on the cross, and where MYTHOS rises after his death. This end has changed in the performance. I found particularly accurate the choice of Kallios' job as a judge. He says, "I'm a fair man, don't turn me into a torturer." He is the man who tries to conserve the system and the laws as they are. He is the one who has the authority to judge, to forgive, to free from the guilt. Similarly, in Greek financial crisis, they were not few the ones, journalists and politicians, who tried hard to persuade Greek people that they are guilty for this debt and they have to obey because this crisis was their fault. MYTHOS does not gain his freedom back by simply returning the money. MYTHOS will only find the real freedom when he manages to throw away the guilt and be responsible for himself. When MYTHOS asks Petalia if she found the freedom, she answers, "I found it." Because freedom is something that everyone should build for themselves. What Sίδeri actually succeeded through the simplicity of this play for Greek financial crisis is to initiate a discussion on the different aspects of power, and she sets this crucial topic slowly, increasing step by step, gradually the tension. Relationships get worse scene by scene through the aggressiveness and the violence of the dialogues, changing the friendship into insult, into violence, into abuse. My participation in this initiative was a really great experience. I had the chance to read exciting plays and collaborate with excellent professionals. I would like to thank everyone for this great collaboration and hope to see you again in the next project.
Thank you, Stella Papadimitriou, for your insights as being part of the jury of the MYTHOS competition. Maybe just in between. The movie of our theatre production was on the platform of the National Theatre for, I think, 10 evenings. And it is still tonight until midnight, though. And just in case when you have not seen this play before, you're of course very free to get into touch with us after this event, and we can of course also send you a link to watch it. Because now we're kind of talking about this this production in a way that I hope many of you in the audience have seen the production, but we're also going to show the trailer and some pictures and everything, so you have an idea. Thank you, Stella. Maybe what is also important to say about the project is that the whole jury process was anonymous, and we blackened all the names in the 126 texts we received. And what I thought was really nice that through this anonymous jury process, the 3 most distinguished voices that were found by this jury was actually the 3 voices of 3 young women in Greek theatre. And I personally was really happy about this, because I think in Greece as well as in Germany, it's still a kind of a mission to actually get more female voices into the theatre and into the so-called canon.
And let's underline the fact that 2 of the 3 of them were young women actresses. That's also a bit surprising, as far as we are used to have texts from Greek writers. They are male writers, and they are not usually actors or artists of theatre.
Yeah, that's true. It was really nice, and also Selina is also an opera singer, so it was a really like transdisciplinary authorship we had in this project. Next on, we would like to talk to Nataša Sίδeri about her text, but before, I would like to ask you in the audience, does any one of you want to have a small introduction into the production because you've not seen it, just so you can actually follow the conversation? Yes? Yeah, because I'm just going to summarize it in a really, really quick way, and when there's an important aspect missing, and Nataša, you're on next. It's a text about MYTHOS and Kallios. MYTHOS is about to lose his house, and he asks his good family friends, Kallios and Pyrrha, to lend him money so that he can actually hold his house. They say, yes, of course, we can give you the money, and by the way, we have this lot of renovation work coming up in our house, and it would be just so nice of you to help. Then there is a lot of time actually develops during this play, and in the end, MYTHOS practically moves into the place of Kallios and Pyrrha, and every time he wants to leave or tries to say, yeah, maybe I don't know, I should go back to my actual job, Pyrrha and Kallios use their power over MYTHOS to kind of shame him into this power structure and say, oh, come on, we cannot lose you now. And when actually the next hypothecus, I don't know, is up for the house, and he's about to lose the house again, it's even one step further, and Kallios tells him, why did you not get rid of the house at all, when he's already worked weeks and months of his lifetime for free in the house of Kallios and Pyrrha, and they actually do not refund his lifetime in any money, and his debt just only grows and never gets less. And in the end, he's actually robbed his very, very freedom, and like Prometheus, he's Dezmo is bound in the home of Pyrrha and Kallios. The fourth character in the play is Petalia, the daughter of Kallios and Pyrrha. And in this family structure, you see that it's a really, really stiff family that is growing up, and it's a lot about conventions and structures and power play. And Petalia actually tries to rebel against her parents, and in the end, she's gone, and we don't really know how she found her freedom, whether she really found it. It stays a bit open, but she actually flees this family home while MYTHOS is bound. So this is a short introduction. Nataša, maybe in the beginning, what was the context of you writing Bound?
Ευχαριστώ. Και είναι αυτό που δεν φωνάζει και πολύ. And it's the one that's not too loud as well, so that's even better. I wrote Bound in 2015, and this was the height of the Greek crisis, of the Greek debt crisis. This was not the beginning of the play. It's always a little bit hard to pin down, really, beginnings of plays. Several things need to fall into place for them to actually start being written. I will cite another key moment that I personally consider as a starting point, which was a little bit before, not in July 2015, which was the moment that I guess maybe we don't all have dates in our mind about this process, but July 2015 was the month when our Prime Minister was going to Brussels and staying awake all night, and we were lying awake with our mobile phones right next to our beds to see if we were still in the European Union or not. So it was during this month, this time, that the play was written. And at the same time, I had just come back. I was living in Germany right before, and I came back in 2014 from Germany, just as this whole thing was starting, let's say. So I did get the first hit in the German press. It was a very confusing time for me, because it was the first time I partly came back because of the crisis, because for the first time I was reading these reports of my country sinking, and I felt very weird about the fact that I was away and I could not realize what was happening, and everything was coming to me through reports and through words of friends and family. So there was this kind of hostility rising in the German press, and at the same time this moment of ignorance of what was actually happening in Greece that was, I thought, geographical, but I wouldn't say that I resolved the question marks that I had when I did come back to Greece. This is point number one. Point number two was when, just as I came back to Greece, it just so happened that the National Theatre of Greece in Athens had a workshop. They organized a workshop, a playwriting workshop, which I attended. And there, one of my teachers, Vasilis Knorr, a very good teacher and Greek writer, he gave us, as part of the process of the workshop, he gave us a task, which was to rewrite The Merchant of Venice, to find the structure and rewrite The Merchant of Venice, to hide the play. We weren't supposed to write a play, just a skeleton, just a plan for a play, which would contain in it the Merchant of Venice.
Sorry, can you speak a little bit closer to the microphone, because we can't hear you back there?
Closer?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So this was when I worked on the structure of this play for the first time. And then I left it aside, and then it occurred to me again during this month of July. If you look closely, Merchant of Venice is also in there, in the sense that there is this money, friend borrows money from a friend, but of course it's not, it doesn't, a Merchant of Venice has a happier ending than Bound does. But when things did come to that, I was less interested. This is not a play that speaks directly about the Greek debt crisis, and it is not a play that speaks directly about the relationship between Greece and Germany in this context. Though, if you want to, you can read this. You can read into this and interpret it in this way. This is a play that speaks about the structure of debt, and about the structure of debt in the way that it has been bequeathed to us from long before capitalism actually arrived. Before coming to Regensburg, as a kind of preparation for possible discussions that we will have, I just happened to read a text by Plutarch, where he's speaking very much in the same way that I was talking about the German press, but it was not just in Germany, it was all over Europe at the time, that it was not on the occasion of Greece. This whole discussion started, this very moralistic discussion, about debtors who have this moral obligation, not so much financial obligation, this comes afterwards, but this moral obligation that one needs to pay their debts. And this, exactly. So I guess this is something, this is an idea that is very much ingrained in the system that we know. It is, if you will, the basis of it. Capitalism starts with banks, and without debt, a bank cannot exist. It is the creator of debt. But actually, it doesn't even start there. It starts with the idea of property, as it has been handed down to us, at least since ancient Greece. So these are the key elements of the play. These are the building blocks of the play. And then this is what started the story, and then the story came out as it was. I mean, often in theatre you just need to, at least as far as I'm concerned, I understand that the work that you need to do as when you're writing a text is to find the building blocks, the main elements. And then after that, you lead the characters to lead on with theirs, to tell their own story.
In the MYTHOS project, or in the MYTHOS competition, there was actually no topic in the open call that we published. The only hard facts that the authors needed to think about was that it would be somehow playable with the amount of 4 actors, actresses, and that it is a full-length play. For example, Selina Bogliazzi's work, Fake Antlers, it's about a toxic masculinity in society put into archaic imagery of the forest. Then in Dana Epitemiadi's work, it was about the structure of memory and about how one traumatic experience, for example, losing your mother, can do things with your memory and structure around things that you live through or maybe not live through. And then we had with Bound, with Gefesselt, this play that is somehow really fitting the title Mythos, also is political, also has a very universal touch to it. Natasa, I would like to ask you, because you've written several plays from 2015, what was your impulse to send in Bound for Mythos?
There was the German context as well, which in a sense it was both an impulse, but also an obstacle at the beginning. I did consider whether this was the right context this was the right play to send in this context, because it could very well be in interpret it as a critic of Germany, and you don't really want to send in a German competition a play that is a critic of Germany. It is at least a bit risky. I decided to do it anyway because I was interested. I wanted to see what would happen, and I was very surprised when you wrote and you said that you have chosen this one, this play, and I was also very surprised about later on. I was very surprised with everything, with the reaction of the audience, with the reading that you guys, everyone from the team, when we had, of course, these were COVID times, so we had one Zoom meeting with all the contributors to the play, and I never felt that there was a difference between us. I never felt that there was any kind of resistance whatsoever rising from this context. I just felt that we were all there discussing issues, problems that concern us all. And I've said this before when we were discussing this in Regensburg. There is also this thing. I had German friends. I have quite a few German friends, and they always tell me that Germans, because of the recent history, they do love criticizing themselves. So yeah, there's this self-flagellating technique as well. So maybe that played part in it. But I still find this very courageous and inspiring, and I would very much wish to see more of this happening in our context as well, where it is very difficult to voice a critical discourse of contemporary Greece, or even of non-contemporary Greece, in an institutional context. We all have this resistance, like as playwrights, let's say. No, I'm not going to think in the first person plural. I've often felt that there is this risk does exist and is perhaps more imposing in Greece than it would be, for example, in Germany. So that was for that I'm also very, very grateful.
The jury of the MYTHOS competition also was a binational jury, which I think is also important in this context, because Stella, you were the voice from the Greek theatre landscape. With Antigone Akoun and Prodromos Sinikoris, we had two jury members who are in the Greek as well as in the German theatre landscape. And then with Klaus and Saskia and Franziska, although Saskia did not have the right to vote on the Klaus and Franziska, we had two voices from the German theatre landscape. And also in the production team, unfortunately she's not here right now, Ariella Caratulo did our stage and costume design. So just in the context of the perspectives, I think it's important to also say that there were in the process already different voices. Although I would say, yes, you're right, there is a thing of self-criticizing, at least in a public way, but sometimes not thoroughly, maybe. That is definitely part of the German culture right now.
On the other hand, on criticizing contemporary Greek drama, the relation, the hints to the ancient play of Bound would also have been an obstacle. It could have been an obstacle because it's not very fashionable to create modern drama based on ancient myths. Although the title of the contest was MYTHOS, it was referring to the contemporary myths that we can create. So I'd like to ask you about this obstacle. How did you think of putting, for example, names like MYTHOS or Italia, or names first of all that already give us a hint, and of course the title of the play itself and the story of the play with its links to the ancient myth. ancient drama.
This was not the first time that I did something similar. And maybe it's not very fashionable, though there are some attempts. For instance, in the festival, the last 2 years, in the Athens Olympidos festival, the artistic director has been actively inviting contemporary Greek writers to rewrite an ancient tragedy, and I find this very helpful. I find this very interesting, and I find this right in a certain sense, because this is, as I guess we, especially you people who are dramaturgs and have studied, are into history, know better than me the history of aspect of theatre. This is how these plays, the ancient, the Greek tragedies, were written to begin with. They were all taking advantage. They were all built on already existing stories, on myths that were already existing, and they were making something out of this. So this is a practice that, for me, is very interesting. And I have done this, and at least twice, and I am going to do it again in the future. Because it puts you in I don't see this as an obstacle. On the contrary, it just puts you in a process of communication with a culture that is very rich, and with a culture that is yours, but at the same time is not yours. And then there is this universality of the Greek tragedies, which is it's very. One could talk about this for hours on end, and we don't have hours on end. But I guess that I'm gonna make one reference that I did when I was in Regensburg as well, just because I happened to be reading this book on the train to Germany. Simon Critchley wrote this book recently that has not been translated into Greek yet about Greek tragedies, and he says, he sums it up in a wonderful way. Why is it that we always like to hear the stories again and again and again? And why is it that we always like to build on the stories, to inherit something, certain elements from them, and then throw away some other elements, but build on that? Why is it that we keep talking about it? It has been 2,000 years, and we keep discussing about this one family, and what happened to this one family? And it's a way, it is universal just because we make it universal. Because these people change. It's like it's stable, you know, like in science fiction movies, you always have things are shifting everywhere, but then you have this constant that appear that are there in this world, and there is there, and there in these parallel realities, they're always there. I think it works a bit like that with the story of these couple of families that keep circling around and we keep hearing about in the Greek tragedy. They change with us, and we change with them. So it's a great framework to address what is happening to you now through them.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nahasa, for your thoughts about your play and your writing. And maybe now is a good time to also show some material of the production of Bound. I feel a bit bad for the concert next to us because our trailer is going to be a bit loud. But we're going to show the trailer of the production just so you have a picture of the overall aesthetics. Yeah, I'm going to say something to the scene after the trailer. First, the trailer.
Danke dir, Kaios. Ich zahle sie so schnell wie möglich zurück.
Die Wände streichen, hier und da ein bisschen ausbessern.
Eine Menge zu erledigen.
Ja, und das wird erledigt werden.
Mehr als ich eigentlich dachte.
Du hast ihre Gedanken vergiftet.
ist ein guter Tag für die Demokratie.
Du hast sie gegen ihre Eltern aufgewälzt.
Ich gehe jetzt! Kaios! Weißt du, Petalia hatte recht. Ein Gefängnis ist ein Gefängnis, auch wenn es ein privates ist.
Und wenn man nicht die Zeit hat, sein Versprechen einzuhalten, dann hat das Konsequenzen.
Deine Eltern und ich sind Freunde. Freunde tun sich Gefallen.
Thank you, Tessa. Unfortunately, our trailer does not have Greek subtitle, and the scene we're going to show, there's going to be a Greek subtitle. We are just showing you a very short sequence from the production that we streamed here at the Forest Festival. We're in the middle of the play, where MYTHOS has already stayed with Kallios and Pyrrha for quite a long time, and has worked also for quite a long time. And they just had a family dinner, where also the really oppressive mother-daughter relationship between Pyrrha and Petalia is shown. And then Kallios and MYTHOS sit down for the real talk about what MYTHOS' future is going to be in this household. And yeah, I think it's enough for now.
Du bist ein freier Mann. Wie du deine Zeit einteilst, ist deine Entscheidung.
Ja, das ist nicht ganz richtig.
Es war doch deine Idee, uns hier mit dem Arbeiten im Haus zu helfen.
Die Idee war, ein paar grobe Arbeiten zu erledigen.
Das ist kein schöner Anblick.
Ich sage ja nur, dass wir von unserer ursprünglichen Idee erheblich abgewichen sind.
Ein erwachsener Mann, der wie ein Baby rumläuft.
Mein Punkt ist nur, dass die Arbeit hier so viel Zeit frisst, dass ich einfach nicht genug verdienen konnte, um euch auszubezahlen.
Bringst mich dazu, dir das Gleiche zu sagen, was ich Petalia immer sage, wenn sie wieder anfängt, Ausreden zu erfinden.
Ich habe getan, was ich konnte.
Offensichtlich war das nicht genug. Und wenn man nicht die Zeit hat, sein Versprechen einzuhalten, dann hat das Konsequenzen. Die muss es geben, findest du nicht?
Konsequenzen?
Zunächst einmal, dass man über seine eigene Zeit nicht mehr frei verfügen kann.
Aber ich habe dir doch meine Zeit schon gegeben, und zwar freiwillig.
Du hast etwas versprochen, du hast es nicht gehalten. Ich habe das Recht, es einzufordern.
Was genau meinst du?
Nichts weiter als das, was in solchen Fällen üblich ist. Wenn der Schuldner nicht in der Lage ist, seinen Kredit zu begleichen, ist es üblich, alternative Zahlungsmöglichkeiten zu erwägen.
Muss ich mich jetzt darauf einstellen, was von einem Anwalt zu hören?
Ach komm schon, MYTHOS. Du arbeitest vielleicht nicht nur als Jurist, aber du weißt sehr genau, was ich meine. Unsere Vereinbarung war privat. Das, was du mir schuldest, ist moralischer Natur.
Ja, was kann ich denn tun, um meine moralische Schuld zu begleichen?
Hier im Haus zum Beispiel. Du bist vielleicht fertig mit Streichen und Ausbessern, aber das Haus ist groß. Pyrrha und ich können nicht alles alleine machen.
Was meinst du?
Gartenarbeit, Instandhaltung, Hausarbeiten. Wenn du uns damit helfen könntest, würdest du uns eine große Last von den Schultern nehmen.
Du sagst mir also, ich kann meine Schulden hier im Haus abarbeiten?
Sieh es doch als Zweitjob an. Das machen viele, wenn sie in Schwierigkeiten stecken. Ich werde dich natürlich nicht davon abhalten, weiterhin ins Büro zu gehen.
Wie lange?
Solange bis du deine Schulden abgearbeitet hast.
Wann ist das?
Wenn ich es sage. Oder wenn du das Geld hast, sie mir zurückzubezahlen.
Okay. Und die Zeit, die ich hier bereits gearbeitet habe, wird die mit einberechnet?
Das war ein anderer Deal. Du kannst keine Vergütung für etwas erwarten, das du selbst angeboten hast. MYTHOS. Vergiss nicht. Auf diese Weise kannst du deine Schulden zurückzahlen und dein Haus behalten. Ich bin dein Freund, MYTHOS. Und das ist mein Angebot an dich.
Ein Freund?
Ich gebe dir die Möglichkeit, deine Schulden abzuarbeiten. Das ist doch besser, als mit dieser Last herumzulaufen. Hm? So. Und würdest du jetzt bitte die Teller abräumen und in die Küche gehen, um Pyrrha zu helfen?
Ich möchte frei sein.
Du hast keine Wahl. Du gehörst zu deinen Eltern, bis du alt genug bist, auszuziehen. Dann musst du einen Weg finden, für dich selbst zu sorgen und bist frei.
Thank you, Tessa. We actually chose this table scene because we thought it's interesting, the content, to talk about it. And yeah, I think in the trailer, and if you already saw the live thing that you've seen, it's not only guys sitting on a table, but I think yeah, this is an interesting thing to talk about. Maybe. And now, Tessa, for this part of the talk, maybe you can just the way you feel, you can just show some pictures of this production so that the audience gets some more imagery. I'm really happy that we were able to come here with Janis Knorr, the director, Guido Wachter, one of the actors, and Zelal Kapcik, one of the actresses. And Janis, when we were in the process that we found our winning text with Natasa's text, and we were searching for a director, we gave you the text and we had a phone talk. What was your first emotion and inspiration about the text?
When I first read the text, because as you already said, there was a lot of stuff in the German media about all the debt crisis, and we read this text and I immediately feel like, because Natasa breaks down this whole crisis in like a personal situation, I had immediately the feeling that we have the chance to grab the audience on an other side of the topic, because it's not like you just consume media where they told you that, oh, they're now in debt and we have to pay money, which was in a breakdown the German media responses to the whole debt crisis, and the text gave us the chance to grab the audience a little bit from the back door to give them a feeling about all this debt downward spiral, so you can sit there and really have the feeling of, oh fuck, that could happen to me, and not sitting there like in a safe space and watch it and be like, oh well, he's fucked up, but I'm not like this, what I like to call the reality TV narrative, when you sit there in the audience and look at something and be like, I'm better than that, they fucked up. And that was the special thing about the play when I read it, that I thought if we find a way to break it down like in this personal way, everyone sits there and could have a feeling of like, oh, there are like 2 or 3 turning points in my life which could go bad, and I run out of luck and I'm in the same situation, and you don't, and you start to sit there and be like, yeah, that's not me, and start to think about, oh fuck, what would happen if it happens to me? And that was the special thing about your play, because I think it wouldn't be necessary to reproduce like the media narratives, but it gives the chance to find a way to really make the audience feel like that you feel the emotion that you're going through with this topic, and not be like it's like a political topic only. So you will be more engaged into the topic and not watching it from an outside perspective.
What was it when you first read it with the actors or your collaborators, the set designer? I mean, what were the first impressions, ideas that came up for the aesthetics that you would choose? The acting techniques, perhaps improvisations that you...
That's a pretty hard question. No, I work.
Just a hint.
Okay.
You just have to. You don't have to give us the whole history.
Okay. Yeah, I worked a lot with Ariella. That was our 10th work, I guess. And to be totally honest, I trust her so much that we just talk very barely about the topics, and then she comes with ideas, and I'll be like, yeah, I like that. Let's do it. No, but we immediately thought that we want to try to give like the whole thing like a little bit of horror scenario, because I think a lot of the time of the play you always think like something's off, but a pretty long into the play you sit there and be like something's off, but hey, he says he wants to work for the family and everything's fine, but you have like this suspense feeling, and about this, when we read this first with Ariella, we came to the hint of trying to find like odd situations, like, thank you very much, guys. No, sorry, that's it. To find like odd situations where you sit there in the audience and be like, okay, they just have a dinner or have like conversations about the past when they studied together, and you always sit there and be like, something's slightly off, and everything feels a little bit of cringe, but nobody on the stage is like, gets it. You just sit there in the audience and be like, that's pretty odd, and they will, yeah, and they're like, no, it's totally fine. Here are some plans. Yeah, and that was the feeling I was searching for, because most of the time Ariella and I don't, because we find a definition of what is our work as artists, and we both think, in a time of the internet, where you can have any information all the time, and every shade of truth, or every point of view of truth. It's not our mission to educate people and find more like ways to make topics like feelable, even if it sounds a little bit weird and kitschy. I think there's no English word for kitschy. And that was the topic, so we started to think about some horror scenarios and how we find some the moments with the actors where they totally pretend everything's fine, but slightly something is off, but only the audience notices, and everyone else on stage is like, yeah, cool, fine, let's do it. Pretty much to the point where you pretty hard notice that it's not okay what happens there. Yeah.
For me it was I love the aesthetic of the play. I absolutely loved it. I feel very fortunate that it happened, that it was staged in this way. But I wanted to just cite the feeling that I had during this first Zoom call that we had, when you and Ariella were talking, and it was a very nice ping pong to see between the two of you, and you can see that two people who work together, it's a little bit like old friends, that, a childhood friend where they say one word and then there's this whole history story swarming in, and you're like, okay, I don't know what they're talking about, but it kind of makes sense. You had the ideas that you were bouncing around were very similar to the notion that, and this happens very rarely, were very similar to the image of the play that I had in my mind, and that I had discussed with one director with whom we had submitted it as a proposal before somewhere else, that this architectural element that you and Ariella are discussing, and which turned out to be this in the end, this notion of a structure that will be mounted during the play and then dismounted during the play. The world that is the supporting structure of this story and of this relationship. So yeah, that was that coincidence was very surprising. So I'm very fortunate.
Because we're talking about the aesthetics, I think there's some elements that even in this really nice movie cannot be seen just as well as when you see it live on stage. And it is a room in this rather small theater in Regensburg, which is a complete hermetic room. There is no way to leave or enter the stage by MYTHOS, although it has 2 doors that lead to a room that is kind of a Kafkaesque room, and only Kallios and Pyra actually managed to open these doors. It's closed for MYTHOS. Then we have elements, there is stone, like stone structures in the set design with the water fountain, which is also extremely horror film movie-like when MYTHOS is bound and he asks for water and they deny him the water, and you have this actual fountain on stage giving water, but he cannot reach it. Or for example, Pyra is always watering her plants and the plants are painted in black, so it's like dead plants kind of, and she's touching or she's being more generous with the dead plants than she actually is with the human that is living and working in her household. Then we have an element that in some times of the play there is some kind of black liquid just coming down from the walls or from the ceiling of the stage. You don't know really what it is, but it is something that is, yeah, that is an element that is really open to different kind of inspirations, associations. And the talk with the audience in Regensburg, there were many different ideas. Some people thought of blood or some mold creeping into this household, just so you have an idea of this really not scientific, artificial atmosphere that you created. And I think one part of this artificial atmosphere is also your way of acting. Maybe Zelal and Guido, you can give some insights about how you as actors, actresses worked with this text, because I think it's not the really naturalistic, realistic way of playing.
I remember, like, I think my first rehearsal with Janis, where should I point it? Like that? Here, okay. I think my very first rehearsal with Janis was, it was really physical. Like, I am used to work at first, you know, from the inside to the outside, which means at first I care about who is this character, what is her intention, why is she here, what is she doing, etc., etc. But the first thing we worked on was the physical appearance. So from the very first moment on, it was like a choreography that we worked on. There are these scenes where she is always sneaking out in the night, and no one knows what she's doing. Like, it's not described what she's doing outside, because she's always seeking for freedom. She says, "I want to be free. I want to be free." And I thought, what does it mean? What is freedom for you? You gave me a very hard time there. No, but it was very clear for us that, of course, you cannot say this is freedom and yeah, that's the ultimate thing. Of course, there are 100 million different versions of freedom. So yeah, I mean, Petalia is a character. She cannot fit into this world. Like, she has these parents And even MYTHOS seems to fit more into this family than she does, because he's like, oh yeah, I'm working for a friend here, everything's quite natural, but she is always feeling this tension inside. But she's been through some very hard and tough shit with her parents, so she is kind of tensed. And yeah, so that was always my goal to keep her like she couldn't move in her own house like it was her own house. There was always like it was like sneaking like a mouse in her own house. And then of course with time we had a bit more. I got a bit more insights of the story, and of course, like this play is a very metaphorical play for like you can. There are 100 different types of interpretation. That's what makes it so universal, you know, and not only about the debt crisis in Greece. And for me, it is something that I can only imagine until a certain level, like because I had a different reality when I grew up. But what I completely can understand is the moral obligation you have to your parents. It's the I think one of her specific or sentences in this play is I didn't ask to be born. So she thinks that this is not like she, even though it appears like she is obligated to her parents and to fulfill their expectations, one day she just decides to say, no, I didn't ask for it, I didn't ask to be born, so I am not obligated to you, so she just gets out. And that was for me, like that was the process for me to play, and all the thoughts I had.
For me, it was a little different because when I first read the play, it was really breathtaking, and of course, we as German actors, we immediately thought about the debt crisis, and in 2015, and all the arguments that were exchanged at that time between Varoufakis and Schäuble came back to my mind, and I read everything in this text, and I didn't want to look like Schäuble though. I wanted to look a little Greek. But we agreed very, very fast all together that we wanted to push the whole aesthetic, also the playing aesthetic of us actors, a little into a direction of a kind of a weird nightmare that's happening to MYTHOS, and what actually sharpened the whole thing and what was happening to the whole Greek nation and to the people here. And it fitted very much together, and we agreed very fast. But it was not that easy to find the form and the bodies and the acting style. But I'm happy with it, with the result. Yes, and then it all came back, and I have to say, at that time also in Germany, there were many people that weren't happy with the way all the discussions were led, and it was I would have loved to play it much longer, the play, because we just did it now for about 5 or 6 weeks, and it got better with every evening, and we wanted to do it for 1 more year, do it twice a month, and the people, the audience was reacting very, very strongly, very strong. Also the younger ones, and they were like really reading the pictures, and
did you get people who felt that uncomfortable?
Yes, of course, very uncomfortable, and it was really like a load of, at the end of the play, it's getting tighter and tighter, and the people, the tension was really hard for the spectators, and when it ends it was like black, and often it was like for 3 or 4 seconds, oh my god, and then, and really relaxing.
What I would like to add is that the ending of the way that Janis directed Bound is also special, because it's a bit different than the ending that Nataša wrote. Janis, because you also read it in this way of criticism of capitalism, but also saw this hamster wheel and the sometimes inability to even think of a way of life without capitalism, and you poured all of these thoughts into kind of a looping end to this play. So at the very ending, it actually started again like the way it used to end. When Petalia enters the stage, in the way that you are telling MYTHOS that you found freedom, she's actually rebuilding the stage. But in the audience in this moment, you don't really get it. You get it in the moment when MYTHOS is actually lying on the same place again, and the lighting is out, and you think, okay, it's over now, and then it starts again for the first 1 minute or so. And it was really the audience reacted very intensely to this, and it was black, and there was a break. I think it's always a good thing when there is a break, because it means the audience has something to digest what they just saw, and then just the reaction was really loud and intense, and yes, it was really also the talks that we had with the audience. And speaking of talks with the audience, we're really happy that you're actually bearing with us, although I'm sure it's not so easy to concentrate on us talking when there is a nice concert happening next to us. And of course, please, you're really welcome to also ask your questions or offer your thoughts or opinions on the play or what we talked about. Is there a question now? Yeah. Do you want to say it too, or you say it and I say it out loud?
How did
I don't know. Hello. Yes. My question is, how did the translation process work? You wrote the play in Greek, yes, and then you sent it in Greek, and you chose it in the Greek version, or how did it work? Was it already translated?
Sorry, it was important in the MYTHOS competition to send in a Greek text and also an English translation. And it could have been a rough English translation. Of water. Maybe Janis can also tell.
Yeah, sure, I can. Yeah, no, it was like, I guess the sentence wasn't...
Thank you, Janis. No, yeah, so we had really rough English translations, and then Natasa's text in English was really well, because, I mean, you have a history of writing theater text in English as well. And then the binational jury, we found a system that all of the texts read in Greek and in English. So in case there was a really rough English translation, the authors did not have a less good chance just because they maybe didn't manage to buy a translation or something like this. It was important for us to kind of have it like an equal take in this competition. And then Beate Köhler offered her financial help also with the process of translation. And that actually in this situation was a special situation, because it just sometimes works out in a way that the choice of a translator does not work out too well to transform a text from one language to another text. And when Janis and I started to work with the translated text, we got to a point where we knew we would not be able to work with this translation, which is sad, of course, in a way, but since we had this extremely good English text, we at some point decided to do another translation of the play, because there was a really certain rhythm to it that was, in our mind, lost in this translation that we had. And so in actually like 1.5 weeks of night shifts, Janis and I did the translation from English, the second translation. So Natasa's text has also been translated to German twice already. You are also still free to voice your questions, of course, because what we wanted to get into conversation with all of you is actually this really, really special project of talking from different perspectives about our newest shared history. And actually Goethe Institute is the perfect place for it, since also it is a part of the Auswärtige Politik, external politics of the German government as well. And it was, yeah, I mean, when you got your prize at the awards ceremony, it was really nice because Natasa held a speech in the theater in Regensburg about the specialty of being awarded with this prize in a German competition for Greek theater text, about actually about the position of Germany and Greece in the debt crisis. I mean, it's a bit crazy in a way. So maybe, yeah, we would like to get in. Maybe I think Amaya, it would be, you can maybe take over, because I don't know what the questions would be from the Greek audience.
Just before this, I know that we are running out of time. Though, since we have Stelina Voyadi with us, I would give her the microphone to just share with us some of her experience of sending a play, writing a play, sending a play to the competition, and getting an award, and coming to Regensburg to share this award with you. You can talk in Greek. And I will translate.
Πάει μπροστά ή θα μείνει εδώ? Γιατί εδώ...
Okay. I'm going to speak in Greek. And Amalia is going to translate, because I want to say everything without angst.
Okay. I will do my best.
Αυτός ο διαγωνισμός για μένα ήταν ο λόγος που ξεκίνησα να γράφω.
This contest was the reason she started to write.
Και στην ουσία μέσα από αυτό το διαγωνισμό ανακάλυψα την ικανότητα του να γράφεις και να έχεις ένα deadline προκειμένου να ολοκληρωθεί αυτό που έχεις ξεκινήσει.
Of course, she realized that she could write and she could keep deadlines and make a whole of what you have in your mind and write it down and have it there as a whole, as a real play.
Οπότε υπήρχαν πράγματα που σκεφτόμουν για περίπου 1,5 χρόνο και 1 μήνα πριν το deadline βρήκα το πλαίσιο και από τη στιγμή που βρήκα το πλαίσιο μου πήρε 1 μήνα για να ολοκληρωθεί και να το στείλω.
There was 1.5 years of thoughts and different fantasies, I guess. But when she found the framework, the exact way to talk about her topic, then it took her a month to write down the play, and then it came out easily. The deadline helped as well.
Δεν περίμενα να βραβευτώ σε καμία περίπτωση.
I would not hope, she said, I would not hope to get the award, not in my dreams.
Και δεν περίμενα και να ζήσω αυτή την εμπειρία του φεστιβάλ συνολικά. Ήταν μια πολύ ιδιαίτερη εμπειρία και το ότι το δεύτερο και το τρίτο βραβείο ακούσαμε μισή ώρα από τα κείμενά μας σε αναλόγιο. Και αυτό ήταν μια πολύ μεγάλη έκπληξη για μένα, γιατί δεν ήταν ένα απλό αναλόγιο, είδα μια ολόκληρη παράσταση μισής ώρας, ολοκληρωμένη, που έφτιαξε η Κάτριν.
It was surprising to me to go to Regensburg to attend this festival, and it was a great surprise for the second and third prize to have a reading of half an hour, but it was not a simple reading, it was almost a performance of our plays. It was very, very amazing to see it on the stage and share it in Germany, outside Greece. Okay. Nevertheless, it was a hard. That's true. When the play was written, it was a hard period. The crisis is still not over, and I was going to ask you what was the reaction of the audience, but you already shared with us, and I would like to ask what it was for you to think of let's say Greek play, the Greek situation, another part of the world. Was it, you almost answered it, but I wanted to get it clear that it was, you said, for example, that this play, Janis, I think you also said that it was kind of international. Nevertheless, it was a Greek play written by a Greek writer whom you met in Zoom meetings, and what was it like to work with somebody from another country? I don't know, Greece or whatever. Have you already worked like that with plays of living writers? Laura very well put it in the beginning, from other countries, or was it first?
Maybe just for my work at Theater Regensburg, Natasa's play was premiered in Theater am Heidplatz, which is one of our stages, on the 2nd of June. And it actually, especially in this last season, at Theater am Heidplatz, we only did world premieres or German language premieres by living authors, and also plays from France, Italy, Great Britain and Germany. But this, I think, was very special for us, that Natasa was really open and part of the process a little bit.
That was my first time to do a play by a living author, to be honest. And to be honest, it was just the second time I did a play, to be honest, a real play. Most of the times, all the other 8 plays I did was like book adoptions, or the NSU process, trials, which was like 2,000 pages of trial scripts. To be honest, I would love to say something really interesting, but it doesn't make a whole difference for me to work with somebody from another country, because I think that's the great thing about theater, that it's so fluent and it's a language that everyone gets. So, and but to be honest, it was we had some points where we think about the differences between the reception story of this whole debt crisis in Germany and in Greece, and I talked a lot about it with Ariella, because she's from Athens, and that's why we changed the ending, to be honest, because we all get the big thing behind the idea of this Jesus figure, which elevates into heaven at the end. But we thought that in Germany the problem is that there's such a bad reflection on this whole debt crisis thing that, to be honest, if it would happen again, they would be like, yeah, we managed one time, we can do it a second time, and we will change nothing. So that's why we try to, maybe not nothing, but it's a little polemic to say it like this, but theory is polemic. That's why we decided to, because we did it in Germany and we showed to a German crowd, and that's why we thought it's important to don't give the people like an ending where it can be like, oh, okay, and now it's over, and that's the end of the story. As you said, it's not the end of the story, it's still going on, and that's why we thought it's be better to don't give them the release, or more be like, the whole shit starts again. Yeah.
I just have one memory of our Zoom where I just remembered that it did make a big difference for me to be able to talk to you, because when we read the play, and I think actually we were all really on the same page, that we in our team we were very critical of the way the media reported about the debt crisis, about the in Germany it was even called the Greek crisis, and there were narratives of like that people in Greece just don't work. No. It was, I mean, you can imagine it was a really populistic media discourse. But within our team, to be honest, we did not have a big discussion, because we did not have, I mean, we had many discussions, but there was not a team member who said, oh really, I was a big fan of Schäuble at that time, I completely get it, I would have acted the same way, I don't know why Greece is still in the European Union. We did not have this team member. But what I think was really, really nice to talk to Nataša about was that I read the play only from the perspective of like criticizing the German side, or criticizing the German position. And for me it was really interesting, for example, when you said in our Zoom that you feel like it's criticizing sometimes both positions. Also that there's also the kind of self-criticism. And also Ariella was really helpful in this, when she was like, yeah, I mean, you know, why does he need the house? Why doesn't he just get rid of it? And for us, I think this was really, really helpful, because we were only reading from our personal political perspective the criticism about the German position, but actually not the, and I still don't get it fully, the self-criticism, the Greek self-criticism, but I was really helpful for our talk about this, for example.
That I had the same impression, that one is responsible for his freedom as the text ends. I mean, one builds his own freedom, and if he's not bold enough, if he's not courageous enough to fight for it, then it ends up bound. The story ends up bound. So it could be seen right in the opposite way than the ancient Prometheus story. One is not courageous enough to be found bound. And perhaps that's a way to see the Greek situation. But I liked very much your comment, because exactly it shows this dialogue, which is precious, I think, to our theatre, to our theatres. And to the theatres all over the world, this dialogue between the perspectives, the different perspectives, the different political views, the different views of human beings in society. So I would love to go on and keep this dialogue on. I mean, it's a path that should not close. For the Greek writers, for actors and actresses in both countries, for directors, for theatre people.
Sorry. Thank you. Maybe speaking of the dialogue, because we have not so much time left in this beautiful place here, I would like to say thank you again, because this was actually the last event of the whole MYTHOS project for now. And I'm really happy that here in Thessaloniki, many different partners and actors in the MYTHOS project actually joined here for this last event in this project that lasted more than a year. And because we're not so many people, and because there's still some beer and wine standing over there, maybe for the last 20 minutes we can actually get in conversation in a more direct way, I would propose.
I think it would be much more easy and much more precious also to have the chance to talk face to face with. Yeah.
So thank you.
With a glass of wine.
Thank you in a just really quick way once again to Beate Köhler, to Tessa and Sotiris from Γκαίτε Institute for hosting us here tonight. Thank you Amalia Kondoyani, Maria Lazaridou, Stella Papadimitriou from National Theatre of Northern Greece. Thank you for Natasa for joining us from Athens. Thank you that we were invited to come here. And now I think we can just have a glass of wine for the last 20-25 minutes. And thank you for being here with us.
Thank you too.